Good afternoon, good evening. How we doing today, everybody? What's going on, my friends? Good to see you all here at this point in time. Yes, we're going to talk about this actually not so emergency meeting. I didn't even really want to do a live this afternoon. I'm feeling a little funky and have quite a few things to get done. But with the way and the news and all of that that's been reported, I figured, you know what? Um, I'll just have to do a live here just to go forward and just to clarify everything, make sure people are all on the same page because I know I'm going to get absolutely flooded with questions over this meeting from Sir Jim at Carrington, all of that. Um, yeah, business owner meets with employees doesn't quite sound as catchy as emergency meeting and all of that, but so be it. We've got to do what we've got to do. So here we are to discuss this, and I do want to talk about it a little bit. I don't want to do a too long of a thing today. I say that and then it goes really long, so we'll see. But I'm not intending to do something particularly long today, so I just want to get into it. Yes, it's been a little while, Money. Good to see you all. Good to see you, Simon, Jason, Ray, Knife, everybody here as well, Dev, John, etc. Congratulations, definitely. We can start that first and foremost. Congratulations to the women's team for qualifying for the Champions League group stages. They had a very good win today to get that done. Yes. So congratulations to them on that. Is it not a long planned meeting? Yes, it is. It is, but I do want to talk about it because there's certainly some context to it, tied into things that I've said over the last few days that I do want to make sure is at least understood. There's Haaland's got it done for Napoli, for City against Napoli in that red card. We've kind of awakened the beast, and Haaland is fucking on another planet this season already. He's back to his absolute best, which is quite special. He's going to score so many goals. But anyway, there are some things to talk about with this, and it's just important to kind of clear up and clarify the whole situation, and understand exactly where things are at. So let's start with the story itself, just so we're all on the same page for anybody who's joining now or who is not here. This comes from Laurie Whitwell and Adam Crafton at Rashi. Rashford. Oh, he's done it. He's only gone and done it. He's only gone and done it with a header against Newcastle. There you go, Marcus. Good for you. Big game player. Always a big game player. We don't have a lot of those. Big game player, Marcus Rashford. Good for you. Good for him. Good for everybody. Hopefully he gets a permanent move and has a successful time over there at Barcelona. Very, very nice header from him. So good for him. But yeah, this comes to us from The Athletic, and they say Manchester United's co-owner, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, flew into the club's Carrington training ground in a helicopter on Thursday for a series of meetings, including with team's head coach, Ruben Amorim. Now it says, insisted it was a long-planned and included time with Amorim. However, the team's form was on the agenda, and Ratcliffe was seeking to work through the issues facing Amorim at the club. Okay, the issues facing Amorim at the club. I think it's important to take that into account rather than say he was there to meet with Amorim to sort Amorim out. He's there to sort out the issues facing Ruben Amorim at the club, considering what's going on. Why'd they specify in a helicopter? Probably because that's how they tracked him to Carrington to ask questions about it. Flight tracking. I'm gonna say something funny because as the Muppets and all of that and all of the flight tracking and things like that that's done, you'd be surprised just how much information comes to journalists and people via flight tracking. Okay. And being able to track these kinds of things. Very likely what has happened here is that there was a tip that his helicopter was flying in. That allows people to then ask questions, dig into it with their sources, come out with stories. I'm just saying that does happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of it. I've had quite a few stories based on that too, by the way. But I know that other people do. In fact, you ask some people, some of the best journalists in England, a fair bit of information off of flights and use that as a way to get into things. But regardless, he has flown into Carrington to have multiple meetings to go over different things and all of that, to sort out the issues, working through things with Amorim, not against Amorim. So this is the important part to note, which I said the other day, that I do think is worth mentioning. There's a reason I said it. There's a reason I brought this up. Yesterday, I made a kind of a funny comment, which is that I said Sir Jim Ratcliffe should be the fan's best friend. And obviously there's reasons why that's not going to happen, and ticket prices and the things that go on, some of the decisions that he has to make and he has made that are certainly going to be semi-unpopular with fans. However, what you do have in Sir Jim Ratcliffe that you have not had before Sir Jim Ratcliffe is an owner who actually kind of cares about winning, who actually demands winning, who actually doesn't want to just wait until things are completely fucked and they're forced into making changes, but to proactively address situations and look at them. He is a fan. He is a little bit separated from the football people in charge, who are all heavily invested in, say, Amorim and in things like that. One of the things I think that's important to note is that it says he's meeting with Amorim. He's not meeting with, Wilcox and Omar. I mean, I'm sure he is as well. But the point here is that, yeah, he's not Glazer 2.0. He is there to look at, what is actually going on, what is happening, where things are at, why they're going wrong, why they aren't working, why we're not winning games. And as I said the other day, and put out at the start of the week, I said he was a little bit impatient from ownership on saying, hey, why are we not getting results? And he's had conversations and dialogues with Ruben Amorim, with the staff, with Wilcox, with Omar about this, to go, guys, what the hell is going on here? Like, to understand why aren't we getting results and to see what can be done about it. So as I was saying earlier, and I was saying in the United View thing this afternoon, in the Trafford talk, there's a little bit of pressure from him. And people will take it and say, oh, well, he's pressing, he's coming in there to put pressure on Amorim, win these 3 games or you're gone. No. Sorry, guys. That's not the discussion. That's not how he talks. That's not his conversations. That's not where he's at. Because once you do that, you've already sacked a manager. I hope people realize that point. I stand by that type of statement seriously. As soon as you say, hey, you've got to win this game or you're gone, you're already gone. Nobody comes back from that. That's not where things happen. Once you have that conversation with the manager, it's over. That's not the conversation. The conversation is to figure out what is going on, make it, of course, very clear and understandable that we do need to start winning games, get it from Ruben's perspective directly in terms of what does he think is happening? What does he think is the reason we're not winning games? Because they've got the stats and they've got the numbers and they've got these things and all of that. But when the owner shows up, you're basically saying, cool, I get all of that. So what can we do about this? And is there anything I can help with? Now, you might say, well, there's nothing you can do because we're outside the transfer market and all of that. But that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you have to look at things and say, well, is there a reason you feel like you have to make these choices? Is there a reason you feel like you have to do this? What is the problem that what are you operating within? Is there some situation you think is ongoing here? Is there some problem with the players? Is there some problem with agents? Is some problem with contracts? Do you think like this is causing a problem in there, and how can I resolve it? I'll give you an example. I'm not saying this is the case, but let's imagine for a second in years past when there had been leaks, let's say, from the dressing room about, oh, I don't like this play, this manager, I don't like this and all of that. Well, imagine for a second if instead the owner comes in and says, all right, instead of it being the Glazers, the owner steps in and says, is this a problem? Is this actually causing issues for you? Where do you think it's coming from? And decides to do something about it. Right? For example, let's just say that is the case. Okay? That's kind of my point. Is there anything the owner can do to assist? Now, look, if they go into that conversation and if they're having meetings and they discuss things and they talk and all that, and somehow it goes unbelievably poorly, then and Amorim's like, fuck it, I'm quitting. Well, sure, that's a potential outcome, but they have a pretty regular and open dialogue as well, over different means. And of course, he was there on Sunday, so you can bet they've already spoken earlier this week. But the point being is, as I've been saying, he's going to be putting pressure on them to win, and that the results have to catch up, because he's been looking at the team and looking at the games and frustrated with it, just like we all are as fans. And he's looking at it and saying, all right, why are we not winning? And he's had the dialogue with Wilcox, and he's had the dialogue with Omar, and he's had all these dialogues, and they're saying, we do feel we're better. We do feel that there's progress. So then the question is, one, if that's the case, why is Ruben so unbelievably stressed out at the moment? Because if he is really stressed out, personally, I think that's making a situation where, a player can make more mistakes, if they're in a situation of stress and concern. Rashi? Oh, oh my God, that's Marcus Rashford at his absolute best. What a fucking killer. What a shot that is. Unbelievable. He's arrived. He has arrived at Barcelona. What a strike. Big game player. Big game players do big game things. And that's Rashford. He's always been a big game player. No doubt about that. Incredible stuff. Wonderful stuff from Marcus. Very, 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 very happy for him. Very, very happy that it's working out. New environment, new club, new all of that. Good for him. And to a degree, that's kind of part of it. Sometimes you just need a change. Sometimes you just need a change, okay? That's the truth of it. But I think that kind of speaks to, in a way, what we're talking about here. What if there are just things going on, that are causing so much problem, so much stress among the team, among the manager, all of that. What can you do about it? So that's really the discussion. That's really the point of why Sir Jim is in there. Is there anything we can do? Is there anything that we can do to make this better? Is there anything that we can do to do this and try to figure out what is the change, if there are any this week, that we can produce to make things happen, to improve the result. So yeah, there is that. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what comes of the meeting. We'll see what comes of the discussions and all of that. But like I've said before, he is a fan, and ultimately he is there. He wants United to win. He wants to see what can be done about it. Nobody's really gonna know the specifics of like what's going on, why something is happening, what he might be seeing he can improve, and all of that. But regardless, it may be something. Do you think Sir Jim expected us to win against Arsenal and City? I don't think it's that. I think it's that we're struggling. We're struggling. We're not winning games as much as we need to. We obviously, you can see problems, stress. I look at the players and I go, some of these guys are completely unfocused. I look at the players and I go, I look at the manager and I go, obviously he's like, at times looks like he's lost his head and things like that too. And I go, yeah, so owner will be looking at those same things and saying, can I do something about it? And whether he can or can't doesn't really matter. But the context of the conversation and the context of where he's at is there something we can do? Is there something I can do to support you? Is there something I can do to assist you to win more games? He doesn't want to change managers, but he wants to win you games, and he wants to see if there's something he can do support. So look at it as more of like a level of support that we don't have good form. We're not winning a bunch of games. What can we do to make things a bit different? So we'll see. We'll see. Nobody really would obviously know what the outcome of that conversation yet, if there is one. But it's not sitting there going, "All right, you're shit. You need to win it." That's not what he's there for. That I can tell you certainly. He is there to see. And it might be, look, okay, I get it. You're talking about you don't want to make some changes and you don't want to change your system. You know, what is the reason for that? What's going on with that? Is there any change you think we could make? Is it personnel? Is it this or that? And to encourage that, you know, and that's where it matters. You know, that's where it's going to matter from him, you know, and the coach, and to give that encouragement, but also it does put a little bit of like, I like you. I want you to work out. I'm here to support you. Is there anything else that can happen? Is there anything else that can happen? You know, is there anything that can, you know, is there anything we can do about it? So, yeah, that's what he's there for. So it's not about sacking. It's not about this. It's not about that. But obviously, we do need to win more games. We do need to win, no doubt. I don't know what he can do. Our form is obviously going to matter by the next break. Are we climbing up the table? He's going to want to see that we're getting, you know, 10, 11 points in that kind of range. Ruben needs to be receptive to a bit of change too, for sure. And I think part of it is that you want to get a little bit of a temperature measure here, which is to say, you know, get a little bit of a temperature measure here, which is to say, like, look, it's not working. Can we have a dialogue about what's going wrong and see if you're amenable to certain things that maybe you feel will help? And, you know, all of that, because the communication has to also be very open back and forth. No doubt about that. We're not going to get by and have improvement, and he's not going to like the situation if we're not winning games. But also, you know, you can't have a communication with the guy and all of that. So, yeah. We as fans push Rashi away as well. Can't call him name. Exactly. The thing about this whole Rashford situation is there's going to be people who spin to use this on Amorim and the management, and that's fine. But most people were pushing Rashford away, you know? Most people were pushing Rashford away, and it kind of goes to show, I don't think fans always know the real issues that are going on behind the scenes. That being said, Rashford needed the new environment, and it's actually really, really not on Ruben Amorim. There's no more detail that I want to go into that, and I'm not protecting Amorim. I'm protecting Rashford. There's no more detail to go into on that, but this is not a weapon to be used against him. There might be other weapons that are going to be used against him that are fair. You know, if Garnacho goes and does, well, no, Garnacho was a dick, so there's not much we can do there. But there might be others, but this is not one of them. I'm just very, very happy for Rashford that he got to a new environment, a new place, and has got things back on track. I think that's the best, most important thing that I care about, because I love Marcus, and I will always hope he has a great career, and this is a good start. This is a good start to that. Very happy to see it. He just needed to go somewhere else. That is very, very cool. many fake promises, and there's other things too, and but it is what it is. Either way, you needed that new environment more than anything else in the world. um, for sure. Yeah, I mean, my big question, um, my big question following kind of like this meeting and where things are at. I was talking about this with Owen, earlier on the Trafford talk. Is my big question and my big wonder is going to be when we go in on Saturday, is this going to be like, are we going to see an effect of this pressure? Because I was saying, look, the pressure that's being put by Sir Jim, and this is before the news of the meeting came out, the pressure that's going to be put by Sir Jim is going to be like, I think it's going to be encouraging for changes, doing things that need to change, doing things that need to change, picking different players. Like you look at, I was saying, in terms of the transfers, we pushed ahead with Brian and Mbumo because of Sir Jim to get it done. We pushed ahead with the goalkeeper in the end, with obviously Sir Jim saying, yeah, let's go get the goalkeeper. Let's move Onana on. So I have a feeling he's going to be sitting there going, all right, look, I've pushed for a lot of these changes that we are trying to make to the team. So I need you to be brave with these kinds of selections, is because it's not working. And I'm thinking that the outcome, the most likely outcome, is that there are changes made to the team. You know what I mean? That there are changes made to the team, and that we're not just sticking with the same shit that is not producing results. Because even though I do think there are things we're doing better, and that I think there's some progress from certain aspects of our game and certain parts of the way that we play, I think that there are things you can change with the personnel especially that won't detract from that, but will help to fix some of the problems, some of the things that definitely are not working. You know what I mean? So that's what I want to see, if we get changes in that regard. And that's, to me, to be very, very, very telling. And I'm curious. I really am curious to find out if, we see those kinds of changes on Saturday, because I think that's going to be the most telling aspect. If I see a fullback playing as a wingback, I'll lose my sanity. Yeah, me too. I mean, me too. I'll be very upset if I see some of the same things that are clear mistakes, in my opinion. For sure. That'll be kind of my measure of it as well. Yeah, there should be progress. Agreed. We need to be at the next international break. We need to be in a good spot. We need to be ahead of where we were last season, which was 8 points. We should be at minimum, to me, 10 points. And then I would feel better. I would feel like, all right, we're getting somewhere. And I imagine that's going to be part of the discussion and all of that as well. But mostly I want to see, did we get a change? Is there something that changes? Personnel, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, we need to see the changes. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, there's a whole bunch of nonsense that's been out there on this, on that, on all sorts of things. Which none of that is any different. Six. Um, Galatasaray looking like us. I don't know. I've only been watching the Barcelona Newcastle game, because once Napoli got that red, I was like, all right, yeah, that's this one game a week is brutal. It is, because we have so long to look at this situation of like, each week, like if we're gonna change, if we're gonna have all these stories and things that come out, and to see if anything actually happens after the long game. It is rough. Why do you think our players don't seem motivated? I think a lot of them are, but my bigger concern is how they deal with setbacks. How they deal with setbacks, how they deal with players with when something bad happens that so many just completely drop instantly, like they've been killed and there's nothing that you can do about it, and that they can't turn things around. So, but they have time to keep working. Like I said, tactically, week in and out, I saw them fixing problems. When I watched City, it wasn't really much different to Burnley. It's just different players and in different positions and facing a slightly better opponent, and they seemed to struggle with that. So we'll see, man. We will see. But yeah, my measure here is going to be that we see something a little bit different on Saturday. So Jim coming in on a helicopter makes you think of a Succession. I mean, he does come in on a helicopter a few times. I think he landed with the helicopter early on a few times. As well. Conceding every 2 shots is yeah, well, I mean, one little thing, and like we were talking about the keeper, is like it would be nice if we had a keeper help us at all. Because I watched, Donnarumma make a really good save early on. I watched Donnarumma. Like, we've literally not had one good save this season. Not one. The only saves we've seen from our keeper have been ones straight at their hands. Literally, not a single good save this season where it's like, oh, thank God, we have that keeper. And that's one of the things, like, we need to get that, have a keeper doing well would, to me, be a big, big plus to the whole situation. And that's one of the changes I want to see. I want to see the keeper come in. That has to change this week. We cannot play the same keeper. We cannot. We've got to get Lamans in. Be brave with the selection on these types of things. See some difference. He's just got to play. Something has to give. Yeah, something just has to give. And that's it. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Does Shaw just give up as soon as we can see? Shaw gives up whenever he feels like. I don't know. Hopefully Sir Jim told Ruben to start Lamans. Maybe. I mean, he might have come in and just said, look, you need to pick these guys and just do something, because we knew this was a problem. Let's do something about it. We're all just speculating. No way Onana or Binder making that Donnarumma save. Absolutely not. They're not making that. Yeah, the 3 things I would like to see. I said before the Europa League, there was 3 mistakes not to make, right? And he made all 3. I said the biggest mistake that I would say now is one, it cannot be that Ugarte is the only player who is punished for that game. Can't, right? Because he wasn't even close to the worst player or at fault, frankly. And it seems like it's always him. And the players who mentally switch off and who mentally don't focus and who mentally give it away seem to get by. So for me, I have to see consequences for players not doing what they're supposed to do, for players switching off, for players not being focused. To me, that means Luke Shaw. It means Bruno. And the other thing is we have to not play defenders at wing back. We cannot play Mazraoui at right wing back. So there's a few things like that. One is, like I say, one is the guys who I think really were unfocused in that game, primarily Bruno and Shaw. to don't play defender at wingback. Because I think Mazraoui was fine. It's just he's not a wingback. Put him at the 3 in part of the 3. So those are like the main things. And then it's to put Ahmad out wide. And in the front 3, it's got to be, to me, Šeško and Mbumo. And personally, I think Xerxes and I think Bruno should be on the bench. Probably not what's going to happen. But at minimum, Bruno out of the deep line, and maybe, Casemiro Ugarte or Casemiro Amenu deep is fine for me, or Ugarte Amenu. Just anything different, honestly. Anything different in there. But I would feel it's unfair the amount of times that Bruno kind of gets away with murder, frankly, off the ball. And you can just say, well, I'll just move you out of that position. That's cool. That's fine. That would help, probably. But I think Xerxes deserves to be playing. Xerxes is a good player. Xerxes helps us a lot whenever he comes on, and he fits in the team, and he should be playing because he will help get the ball to the forwards. And, I don't care if he was benched against Grimsby and remember what happened. Like, it's training wheels. It's training wheels, man. We keep running this, well, we'll get bailed out by Bruno training wheels for the rest of eternity. We'll just keep the training wheels on for the rest of eternity. Well, Bruno will bail us out. Bruno will bail us out. Bruno will bail us out. Bruno, and then you take off the training wheels, you fall down, you skin your knee, and what do? You put the training wheels back on? At some point you have to just say, I need to fucking learn to ride a bike. I need to learn to ride a bike. I need to keep going. I need to
Amorim's self-sabotage
play without
is just
him.
so frustrating to see because the systems does work, but he just can't profile the right outfield players to show it.
I agree with you 100%, and that's kind of my point, is that we can't keep going, well, we'll get carried by Bruno. And I'm not saying Bruno doesn't even carry at times, because he certainly does. That's kind of my point. He's been very often the one keeping the bike going down the road. But at some point, you can't say every time we take the training wheels off, I fall. Therefore, you always have to have training wheels on. It doesn't work that way. You have to be able to, at some point, get going without Bruno, because he will not be here forever, and he might be gone sooner rather than later. We have to, man. We have to. No other team is completely devastated every time one player doesn't play or plays off, because then what you're saying is that, like, realize here's the point I'm making. Okay, if you can only win games, if you can't do anything when Bruno's not on the pitch, then what that also means is that when he's bad, you're going to lose. You realize that. If you cannot play without one player, if you can't, then if that player has a bad game, you will also lose. And that is the truth of our team. We win or die on the basis of how Bruno does in a game. Still, when's the last time Bruno had a bad game and we won? Doesn't happen. And you can say, well, you lose games when he doesn't play. Yeah, it's the same thing as him having a bad game. We've not actually learned to play as a team despite Bruno. Was Bruno here when we played Villarreal in the Yale final? Yes, and he played like shit and we lost. He's not been there in a lot of big games, to be honest. But it's not to blame for all of that. I'm just saying we have never moved beyond being a team that our results essentially depend on whether Bruno's good or bad. Yeah, the one time it did was Ten Hag's first season. It was Rashford. And I wouldn't even say Bruno was bad there, but we did live or die based on Rashford, right? The minute Rashford's form turned down, the team stopped winning. We've forever been a one-man show. One guy is making the team win, making us win or lose. We've been so over dependent on just one guy. for such a long time. It's not always been Bruno. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's not always been Bruno, but we've never figured out playing as a team. That's why I said in that season it was the Rashford carry job. There was a few moments under Solskjaer where I think we were better. Newcastle have scored. Where I think we were better in the 89th minute. Where I think we were better. You know what I mean? As a unit. But it's just been this way forever, man. It's just absolutely been this way forever. Looks onside. Onside, yep. That's cool for Gordon. So yeah, I mean, I just want to change that. It's not to say we don't need some individual brilliance, you know what I mean? But I think a good team versus a bad team is that a good team has multiple players showing that individual brilliance sometimes. We have none of it now. We just have none. We just have none. But we do need to somehow get beyond that because we're just constantly on a mercy. I don't care about what Amorim wanted out of him. I don't care. I don't care if he wanted him to stay. Ultimately, the call was on him. He's also your manager, by the way. If you support the same club as me, it's not my manager. He's your manager. You know, you have as much affiliation or more with the club that I do. Okay? So, you know, English matters. Okay? He's your manager. You may not like it, but he is your manager if you're a fan, as much as he is mine. And Bumo showed individual brilliance against City. No, he was quite poor, actually. He missed quite a few passes that needed to happen. We have it where that can happen. Liverpool is basically one guy team. Absolutely not. I completely disagree. Salah's been mediocre this season. He's popping up with goals. Don't get me wrong, but he's been quite mediocre. They have a good team. They've been playing as a good team for quite some time. They've played quite a lot together. You know, but they're not showing it. We do have quality that can show it, but we do not have. We're not seeing it right now. Yeah, top managers drop top players if they're not performing. That's a fact. I agree, Richie. And like I've seen that. Salah's been their goal scorer, but he's not the reason their team plays well or poorly. They have a lot of reasons they have a lot of things that make them play well or play poorly. He's the icing on the cake, exactly. And like I look at us and I go, Pep, if KDB is not on it, he can still have the team produce back in the day. You know what I mean? It's never one player, whether we're good or bad. But whenever we say like, whenever we have like, this discussion, we go, well, if we drop Bruno, we're going to play poorly. But that's the problem. We can't play poorly just because we're missing one player. We have enough quality in the side that we should play well regardless of one player, whether they're playing or not. You can't tell me that between Ahmad and Mbumo and Sheshko and Casemiro and Mainu and Lenny Yoro and Delict and all of these people, you can't tell me that we don't have enough quality where we can't play well without Bruno in the team. You can't say that. There's no way that that's true. But it kind of is. And that is the problem. We have to somehow move beyond that, because then it means if he has a bad game, it's just like he's not playing. That's the point. Vini, Trent, people get dropped all the time at these clubs. And that's kind of my point. So to me, it's an invalid argument for anybody saying it, but also for Amorim to say I can't drop Bruno. You can. We only win if he plays well. And I found City and I found Fulham to be really similar games. I found City and I found Fulham to be really similar games when I rewatched them. In both games, there was a lot of good situations, but there was a hell of a lot of losing their head, and Bruno was crap in both. He was good against Burnley, and it helped us score a lot of goals and get a lot of chances and things like that. So pre-planned talks earlier. Yeah, pre-planned. So he's just saying the same thing. He met the head coach on Thursday. Let's see if there's anything new in that piece. It is understood he's keen to help Amorim work through his current issues. And it wasn't with Omar, because Omar was at the women's game. Sources close to Ratcliffe insist he remains supportive. United have dismissed a report that Amorim has 3 games to save his job. Yeah, there you go. So, like I said, a lot of clickbait, a lot of bullshit. A lot of clickbait and a lot of bullshit at the moment. Casemiro and Ugarte was our best pairing under Van Nistelrooy and Amorim. You're absolutely right, Jamal. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And if you were to ask me, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to do a vote tomorrow, right? So today, I want to tell you, because I don't want this to go too much longer today, but I want to say what my preferred team would be in terms of, like, you have the balls to make a change. You know what I mean? You have the balls to make a change. You need to make the change. You need to pick based on what's healthy in the team right now. I want to look at what I would pick right now. Today. To give us the best chance to win while also playing within the system and what I think that kind of needs to happen, essentially. Tomorrow we'll do our vote and things like that, but yeah, it's our best pairing, and he abandoned it at the end of last season. Like I said, look, it is funny, you know, because I don't know where there's no pressure. No, there is pressure. We've got to win, but Jim is very supportive of him. He wants to figure out and see how we can help. This is what I would choose for this game. I'm not saying it's permanent, but this is what I would choose for this game, because this is, to me, what needs to happen. Based on it's not something brewing. It's pretty much the opposite. Something brewing. This is what I would go. This is what I would go with against Chelsea. That's what I would go with against Chelsea. You could put Mainu in for Ugarte, and I'd be fine with it too, by the way. I think Ugarte is just giving you a bit more. No, the denials don't mean anything. The point is this. Look, I've tried to explain this really, really bluntly. There is no 3 games to save his job. There is no plan to sack him. There is no discussion with other managers. There's none of it. Nothing is happening. The only reality is, if we're off track for getting back in Europe, the further the season goes, and the more we are off track, the more likely they're going to start looking at replacements. There is nothing going on except we want to win more. Xerxes was actually, by the way, the best presser in Serie A, from what I recall, for a young player. I would do this pretty much immediately. This is what I would do. You could put Kabi in either spot in the midfield. I would be fine with it. I would be fine with it. I would totally be fine with it either way. In fact, you probably should. You probably should. But Mainu over Casemiro, fair. I mean, that's what you guys can pick. I kind of think I want to see this pairing again, simply because they won a lot of games together. And I think it could be a little bit of stability, take the pressure off of Mainu. I would for sure be bringing Mainu on at like 55 minutes every game for Casemiro at minimum, and then get him into starting. But the more I'm looking at it is this, okay? This is how I see it. I can be wrong. This is not my long-term best team for United or something like that. I'm looking at get Casemiro in there with Ugarte so that we have some stability, okay? Because it did stabilize things. A sitter who's physical, Casemiro will just sit in front of that back line. He can spray the ball around still, so you still have that passing range. You know what I'm saying? Ugarte can run around doing his pressing and ball winning. That's what we did last season when they played together, and I thought it was successful. Stabilize the team with this. Just give us some stability. Just give us some predictability. Get Mount and Cunha back so we have more options. Do this for a game or two while you get Mainu in at 55 minutes, in at 60 minutes, have it working, and then get Mainu in there as a starter. Because I do think he can do this job, but I do think it would be helpful for him to be subbed into more like regular game states, not horrible game states, get some confidence, get a feel for where we need to be, you know? That's all I'm saying is that I like that. And I think Chelsea, you know, and get Cobby going. I'm really fine with the way we're managing Cobby. What doesn't make sense to me is Bruno. So, yeah. The thing with Xerxes and Šeško, we don't have a sub at striker. I know, but you can put Bruno on as a substitute. You can put Cobby on as a substitute, and all of that, and give give Šeško 90 minutes or Xerxes, whoever's more fit. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I see it. So there's a few things that you can change in this team. I think the Lacey stuff is correct. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any attempt to placate. I think that they I don't think he'll play anytime soon, but there's steps that go through the development of young players. One is getting into the first team training environment. 2 is, just attending some of the games with the first team. 3 is making it on the bench. 4 is actually getting to play. So yeah. I'll give you another option that I've thought about a few times. What if we switch this just once? Get Ahmad separate running onto his left where Xerxes going to drop, okay? Dorgu has the pace to keep up on Mbumo's side. He's played on the right side. He's a good player there as well. But I just have to wonder, because he's left-footed, then you're not getting him constantly going one-on-one on the outside here. You're getting him kind of cutting into the middle and putting in a different style of crosses. What if we run Ahmad the other way? So he's on the opposite side to Mbumo, and that gives us pace down both sides. You know what I mean? So that we have that pace down this side, but also the attacking quality. He can get on his right foot, on his left foot to hit, crosses in. You don't get as much of his shooting, which you would lose on this side, but it's not about him crossing with his right. On this side, Mbumo comes out and he cuts in. And he cuts in and crosses with his left in-swingers rather than out-swingers. I actually think he has a good in-swinging cross, but his out-swingers are really poor. That's just my experience with Dorgu. His running down the line, out-swinging crosses don't really work, but he cuts inside and crosses actually quite good. Same goes for Mbumo. So it would look more like this. You'd end up like this at certain times. And I think that might actually be slightly better. We'll see. I think Ahmad and Mbumo were cooking before Burnley, but I think we should be trialing stuff like that, To me, that would be like, let's try swapping. Let's see what goes on here. Let's see what happens, if we change this. Let's see what happens. Because Dorgu's also a pretty strong dribbler. Yeah, he's played on the right wing a lot before. So maybe it gives us a better balance where we get our best attackers out wide, essentially. I think that might help put the best players in the right positions and things like that. I'm just saying, I'm curious. I'm curious if it would make a difference. But this is kind of my point, is that I think there are things you can try to swap a little bit without changing your system, without changing your principles, without changing any of that, which I don't think he's going to do. There's things we can do within that I feel like we were doing, and we can do it again. and we can improve it again. And we can find help to give the players a little bit of confidence. But like, let's say, we've had this talk.
Evelyn, did you see Rashford's 2
I did.
goals for
It was
Barca?
great from Rashford.
OMG.
Let's say we've had this talk about how Dorgu's receiving the ball in the most dangerous areas. All right. Well, then let's just move them around a little bit into natural positions where, for now, it's Ahmad receiving those ball in dangerous positions. Not put Mbeumo wing back. I'm saying he tends to naturally drift. And because we always go with 2 lefties, you're going to have one who cuts inside a little bit more and one who drifts out. That's normal. He's done that forever. Having one of them run into the corners. So there's just things I'd like to see, and that's really my test when I look at, all right, he wants to support him, he wants to help him, he wants to do all of this.
It's clearly not working.
What's really funny about that comment about the formation not working? So the new FIFA came out today, all right? And obviously, like, a lot of people hyped on it. And I was thinking back to when I used to play FIFA a lot. And then I was actually just watching someone out of curiosity. And because I was chatting to someone and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to play Ruben's formation in FIFA," you know what I mean, and get it going. And I thought that'd be kind of fun to do the same thing, to make it like that, make that like a series, like how to, making Amorim's team work or something like that, right? And he was playing, and I actually just like watched a little bit of it, and it wasn't working. And you know what his first thought was? I need to change formation. It was the first thing that came out of his mouth. This formation isn't working. And I realized this is to me the FIFA generation. Because when I played a lot of FIFA, I would do the same thing. I'm not winning games. Let me go look up some new elite tactics online. Let me look up some new elite formations online and figure out how to win some games, And it's like, you've got guys who have giant, massive channels and Patreons teaching people what's the best formation to use in FIFA. And I genuinely think this is a consequence. We live in the FIFA generation. Everybody's first thought is, and we laughed about it when he said that because I thought it was really funny. But like, it's like, it's like the first thing you think of when it's not working is, we need to change formation. What if it's not the formation, I think people assume that that's going to be the thing that makes change, But it is kind of funny. It is kind of funny. What was really funny, Ray, is that in this brief game I watched of his, it's so funny to see this. His center backs weren't stepping up, because I don't know if there's like a way to instruct them to, but he had a line of 3 at the back, and when they beat the midfield, there was a huge gap between the midfield and the center backs, because there'd be only 1 striker, and the 3 center backs would be in a line, and the 2 other forwards were dropping in. It was like hilarious, because I was like, oh, wait a second, this is like actually funnily reflecting real life.
The amount of people who think the formation itself is inherently bad shows how football analysis sucks.
Exactly.
Even experienced
and it was like,
pundits talk about the formation as if that's all the system is.
Right. And it's like, it was the exact thing, like, the center backs weren't jumping, so there was huge gaps behind the midfield and the center back, because they were sitting deep even when there was only 1 player and not jumping and tracking them. So it is funny. It is funny that that's like oftentimes the first, the first inclination is that it's a formation issue or it's something like that. But yeah, it is kind of funny. Yeah, it was a deep line and all of that. But change the color of the socks. No, but look, it's like, I'm just saying it is a tendency. It's something we see all the time nowadays, that it's like, it's not working, we got to change the formation. Well, and then like we went from one manager to the next and they kept ending up at 4-2-3-1. Part of the reason for that is that a lot of managers will end up playing a formation that suits essentially the players. And when you end up with the same players and not rebuilding things, it doesn't change much, If we switched to a 4 right now, we'd probably just end up conceding more goals the way that we're playing. Because you kind of need to we just have one fewer defenders, and teams could actually do the same things to us, ironically. Why do so many managers play with the back 4? It's just what's popular. It's just what's kind of ordinary. I mean, in England, the back 4 has always been so much more popular for whatever reason. But it's just normal, because I think it has also to do with personnel. Like, how they develop changes things. Like, for wingers and how that all works and things like that matter. But anyway, I just want to see changes. I want to see the bravery to say, let's do something a little bit different. Let's try something a little bit different. Again, I don't even think it has to do with changing formation. I don't think it even has to do with changing the formation or the tactics. It's like, use personnel with slightly different and better traits, and I think we'll win games. It's like right now I look at it tactically and I'm like, yeah, but until we actually change a few of the personnel and the way that we're picking them, it's hard to say that it's actually the tactics. Here's what I'll say to you on the tactics and the system aspects and things like that. If we actually try different players, change the way that we're picking the personnel within the system, and then it doesn't work, then I will say, sure, it's the system. Sure, it's the system. But that's not what's happening right now. What's happening right now is I'm seeing the same mistakes from the same players, and then we're persisting with them. And as long as those big mistakes are happening, it's really hard for me to say, oh yeah, it's the system, because those players are going to make mistakes regardless, you know? Like, that's all. You know, we played a good team versus Bilbao. Yeah, agreed. Amorim did tinker a lot last season, and it still didn't work out. Well, I kind of disagree. He tinkered and actually ended up getting it right in Europe, and then he ditched it in the final 2 games of the year. It's so strange. It's so strange for me. You know what I mean? It is very, very confusing. So that's kind of how I'm at. But yeah, that's it. I want to kind of end it here. I don't really want to do too much more, but yeah, I hope that we make some changes. I hope he makes some changes. I hope he picks some different players. I need a new formation.
PLS James the First need a new formation with some bacon and hot sauce on it and cola zero, smiley face emoji.
So tomorrow we'll do the vote. We'll see what team you guys want to do, and all of that, and we'll go from there. Okay, that's what we've got. So yeah, anyway, like I said, truth of the matter is Sir Jim is there to help Amorim. There's pressure to win games, but he's not there to sack him. He's not there to beat up on him. He's not there to tell him you have a game to save your career. He's not there to say any of that stuff. But he's there to see, is there anything that can be done to help United win games? So hopefully we do see some changes, because I think changes will give us a better chance. And I'd like to see some changes against Chelsea, personnel-wise especially. Okay? Thanks for hanging out today. It's been an hour, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you on the other side. How long does he get? It's about league form, and it's about Europe. If we're not winning games and we're getting further away from qualifying for Europe, then that is going to make it worse and worse and worse. And the pressure will grow and grow and grow. Okay? See you later, everybody. Have a good one. Goodbye. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom,